factory, and the family lived in a communal apartment. Sadly, Anastasia's father died from leukemia when she was only 5 years old, and her mother turned to alcohol in order to cope. Anastasia was raised with strong ties and support from the church and feels she was rescued by God. In 2013, when her son Stiven was born, Anastasia was faced with the harsh reality, quote, "Russia is only for Russians." At age 15, Stiven was verbally attacked on the playground multiple times. In March of 2015, the two moved to the United States and applied for asylum because it was not safe for Stiven to grow up in Russia. Anastasia was keenly aware that children who did not fit the ideal physical Russian mold were physically attacked and killed in their neighborhood. In 2018, Anastasia married the love of her life, our now friend Adam. They share 6 kids together and are a happy, loving family of 8 in Western Maryland. Please join me in welcoming Anastasiia Obest.
There's just a little correction. Stiven actually was 15 months old, only 1 year and a half.
Oh, my
when
bad.
it happened. No, it's okay. So, I want to thank the Republican. I want to thank the Republican woman of Baltimore County for inviting me and speak at this event. This is like my first speech ever. So,
good for you.
And it's a really big privilege. So my name is Anastasiia Obest, and I was born in communist Russia in 1984, which was called Leningrad back then. Now it's Saint-Petersburg. The communism took place in Russia from 1917 till 1991, then the wall broke. The Bolsheviks, they overthrew the government of Tsar Nikolai by killing him and his whole family. And they created this socialist state, which was about for 74 years, people lived under oppression of communism. So of course, when I was born, it was 1984. So I probably didn't experience as much as my parents did, but I still experienced some years of communism. And during Stalin's regime, the Soviet citizens lived in a type of prison state. They were not allowed to leave the country, and they suffered from widespread shortage of food, clothing. Like if they had to buy food or clothing, usually it would be a big lines which would last for hours, and the government controlled what you can buy and how much you can buy. The Stalin regime eliminated the freedom of speech from citizens and executed imprisonment of millions of Soviet citizens. And executed or imprisoned millions of Soviet citizens during the Great Terror. It was called the Great Terror because from 1936 to 1938, estimated people were killed by Stalin's regime was from 750,000 to 1.2 million people. And not even counting the people of other European countries where he tried to install his regime as well, like Hungary, Poland, and many others. Before I was born, my mom she had my sister back then. She was in prison for 3 years in Gulag prison because she took one loaf of bread from her work. During this time, the economy was really struggling, so people were, like I said before, they were like in big lines to get food and like quality goods, and it was generally low. And before I was born, my parents lived on a communal apartment, and of course when I was born I lived in the same apartment. The communal apartment is basically like apartment where each family has their own room, but they share bathroom, kitchen, and common areas. And usually your room is like your bedroom, your living room, like your fridge would be in your room because like that your neighbors can't like take your food. And the food was bought with special stamps, which was issued by government because they would control how much food you can buy. And I guess it was part of that economy. The neighbors in Russia were taught how to spy on neighbors. A lot of times they would report you if you have some, like for example, literature from Western world or even Bible, or maybe some people would bring like, you know, some clothes, some kind of them would try to sell them because people were only allowed to wear specific things. Like we were not allowed to buy jeans, for example. Like jeans was like a luxury, and if somebody brought them, they would arrest them because it was counted as propaganda or whatever. Like the books were allowed to read usually which Communist Party would approve. If there was books which was criticizing Communist Party, people could face time in jail or even death. I was 7 years old in 1991 when the communist wall fell. The curtain was broken, but the effects of communism never left, even to this day. And even to this day, one of the biggest political parties, like they not the biggest, but second to the biggest, is Communist Party. And as you can tell, like the Putin has been ruling the country for many years, and like we don't even, like people who live there, they don't really choose. They vote, but they don't choose who is going to be a president. And because when my father died when I was 5, my mom was really struggling, so she turned to alcoholism. And the thing what saved me, like at 6 years of age, I met church Christians who was missionaries from actually church in Baltimore, which is called GGVOW, which is Greater Grace World Outreach. So this is basically what saved me, and that's why I can stand here and share with you, because I don't believe otherwise I would be here today. And as it was told before, in 2013, me and my son moved from Russia because unfortunately we came with a harsh reality of like basically Russia's for Russians, because my son is a mixed, like he's half white and half African. He was accosted on playgrounds, and when I called my adoptive parents from New Hampshire, they bought tickets for us and they just told us to come here, and then we applied for asylum. And like one of the questions was, I think, on the brochure, like if there is any difference. Of course there's difference. When I came to America, it was like a cultural shock at first, because there's no this oppression spirit which pushes on you, and especially during Trump administration, like I really experienced what real freedom is, like freedom of speech, freedom of religion. Like the freedom of speech and freedom of religion is still oppressed in Russia. You're not able to talk against the war which happening in Ukraine, because you will be persecuted by the government. And unfortunately, I have a friend whose son is 19 years old, and he is supposed to hide because he got an order that he's supposed to go to the army, but they will send him to war, and he doesn't want to participate in war, so he's not able to live in his own house. He's supposed to hide because he does, like his sister actually works at the hospital. She is a surgeon, and she have to do surgeries every day on the soldiers who come, like young guys who come back from war, like without faces, without different parts like limbs, hands, feet. And the freedom of speech is still oppressed. So, like you can see, like during Biden administration, especially during COVID and post-COVID, some Democrats seem to want to eliminate the freedom of speech from American citizens. And like when the statues were destroyed, and you remember the riots, like my husband can testify, it really worried me, because to me it was the sign of the communism. And also Biden administration empowered the Department of Justice to go after cases they disagreed with the election, because they believed the election was stolen. And also pro-life activists who would pray by Planned Parenthood clinics, they were arrested and thrown to jail. And like President Lincoln once said, that the government by the people for the people, and people sometimes don't believe in America that socialism or communism can take the place, but we only can be one generation away if we allow this to happen, if we don't stand for our freedom and we don't speak up. The communism never worked anywhere. Socialism never worked anywhere. It destroyed many hundreds of lives of people. The only thing it does, makes government the more powerful, and it's not any more government by the people for the people. So, like Lincoln said in his address in Gettysburg, that this dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. And that is a great goal.